because whatever you go through, you end up growing through. And I've taken that and I've looked at, everything I'm going through. I'm like, okay, it sucks fucking out. Yeah. I'm hurt. I'm crying. I feel relieved, but I know like I'm going to grow from this.
Welcome to the Vet Rise podcast. I'm your host, Juan Perez. My goal is to make success after service accessible to every veteran in society. I believe in the power of leveraging your service, not as a label that defines you, but as a launching pad for your next chapter. What we have been doing has not been working, and it's on us to start changing the culture. Enjoy the episode, and thank you for your time. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vet Rise podcast. This is going to be a really good one, and I hope you strap yourselves in for this. So I have a good friend of mine, Nicole, on the podcast today. I met Nicole about over a year ago now at an event that I went to, in a coaching event that we're both a part of. And right away, off the bat, we hit it off as friends. She's an amazing person. I'm going to let her introduce herself. You guys know how I do this. This is a conversation. It flows. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. It's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. And I know she has a lot of amazing stories to share. So if you're here, I'm going to let her start off. So Nicole, how you doing today?
Been fantastic. How are you?
Best day of my life. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I'll ask questions, but we kind of just let it flow, and it'll run the right way. You'll see.
All right. The shortened version or like my story?
The long version. I want to hear it all. I want everybody to know everything. We're here for it.
So to give you a little bit of background, grew up in an abusive home. And because of the abuse in the home and the alcoholic household, I turned to fitness because that's the one thing that I was like, that's something I can control. All my frustrations, my anxiety, like put it all in there, and it just grew from there. However, I ended up getting a eating disorder or developing an eating disorder, which actually made me go into the hospital when I was 16 years old because I weighed 88 pounds and I was at risk of a heart attack. That to me, like I was also told that day, or not that day, but during that time that I couldn't have kids because I was having my period. I was killing myself essentially. And so after that, I like was really focused on joining the military to like evolve myself. But I didn't weigh enough. And so I had to continue adding on weight to make sure I got the minimum weight. Went in, I was only 17, turned 18 in boot camp. And I'm sure you know, I'm sure you know, don't tell anybody your birthday. It is very rough. But it was very awesome. Then I got out of got out of boot camp, went to my first duty station.
What branch were you in? I'm going to start asking questions because there's so much going on right now. I just love it.
No, you're good. The Navy.
Navy.
My dad was in the Navy. Always spoke highly of it. I was actually going to go Marines.
Really?
I was training with the Marines. Yeah, I was training with Marines.
You were
and
pulley?
Then, well, I can't remember like the pinpoint of like what made me go to Navy, but all I know is my mom was very relieved.
I also switched. I was going to join. Nobody knows this. I was going to join the Army.
Oh, really?
Then I started my paperwork and everything because my cousin was in the Army, and I was going to join the Army. He was an Iraq veteran. He got blown up. He's doing great, but the last minute, I think it was the dress blues. I don't know what it was. I think it was the fact that they didn't want me. You know, they weren't after me, and I switched. So then I joined the Marines. So, all right. So then you didn't weigh enough, and then what did we do?
So then I finally, like in boot camp, I gained like 30 pounds. It was ridiculous. You know how they measure you the first couple of weeks for your dress blues, your uniform? Yeah. Well, by the end of boot camp, I'm like it was hard, and seeing the scale was like, it was really hard for me. And so got out, and I didn't really, I used to run a lot before the military, like 3 to 5 miles every single day. The Navy, you're focusing on folding clothes. We don't do like the combat stuff. Okay. We run every so often until someone's like, this is too hard. And then we're like, yeah. So then after that, you know, in A school, we tried running and I would just get really bad shin splints. I'm like, fuck this. Okay. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Then went to my first duty station
Where was that?
and Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
I was on the Abraham Lincoln. It was, what's it called? It was in the yards because they were like decommissioning it or not decommissioning it. What's the word? They have to like redo it and then build it back up. I can't remember the exact wording.
You
I'm
know what?
sorry.
That's okay. I think people know that listening to this podcast, the whole point of this is like we're leaving the military mindset behind. So like I like it. I encourage it when people forget acronyms and words because it means you made space for something else. So it's all good.
I freaking love that mindset. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
for sure.
I was a CS in the military as well, culinary specialist. It was fun times. But within a month of being there, I was assaulted.
Mm,
And I guess I was in denial and disbelief for the longest time. Because it was a close friend. Well, I wouldn't say close friend, but it was a friend.
yeah.
And it was just really hard. And then I just remember the following July, we were in ranks, morning muster, whatever it's called. And they were saying how there was a case of assault. And they were saying if you know, no, you, I can't remember exactly the wording, but it really triggered emotions and I had to get out and just like walk away. I started crying. And that's when I realized like, hey, I've been like pressing this down and I need to go talk to somebody. So
Yeah.
what to talk to at the VA center, if you're in Virginia and you struggle with MST or anything like that, I don't know if she's still there, but her name is Paula.
Mhm.
Highly recommend her. She's phenomenal. Um, and so I was going through counseling and that, and then I met this person, okay, and I thought like, oh my goodness, Lord, thank you so much because I just went through this, and maybe this was. I thought it was a sign, okay. It wasn't a sign. Well, it was, but it wasn't. Ended up getting pregnant, even though I was told I couldn't get pregnant. And when he switched
From
me,
the event.
no, thankfully not from that.
Okay.
This was a different person that like I actually connected with.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Like
Hmm.
you knew I needed somebody. And anyway, so got pregnant. She was not happy. And once he changed commands, he transferred commands, he just kind of forgot about us. And so I was a complete single parent, single mom in the military, and it was fucking hard. Um, it was really hard.
Yeah.
Nothing that I wish, on anybody. But then that's when, I had her, and then she was like 3 months old, and I met my now husband, soon to be ex-husband, and he like brought her in um under his, wing, and
Yeah.
she's now 8. So they built a bond. But then, throughout that time, he ended up being in the military, came up here, and I struggled so hard with self-love, self-worth,
Yeah.
um, cheated on, mentally, emotionally abused, manipulated, and it was really fucking hard, okay? Um, okay. Um, we
You're
ended up
okay.
having me and Billy had 2 miscarriages, and it was oh my goodness. One of the worst, I don't want to say the worst things because obviously there's worse things, but the experience of that was something that I don't ever want to relive again. Um, Holding my baby that was 12 weeks old in my hand was so sad. Um, but I try to look at it as that's, everything happens for a reason because I now have my daughter and then my son with Billy. And if those 2 babies, if I did not miscarry them, then I wouldn't have the kids I have now. And one day I will be able to, see them, meet them. Um, but I say all this to say this because when I was in the military, I struggled with self-love, and I've always had a passion of fitness and helping women, empowering women. because I struggled with the knowledge, the like having that community. And because of that, I'm like, I want to become a personal trainer. I'm going to help these ladies. And so that's what I did. And then I thought of the business name Love Yourself First, because for the longest time, I wouldn't love myself. I didn't love myself. And the people, from what I have seen, the people that struggle loving themselves and knowing their worth are the ones that get in the toxic, the not so healthy relationships, whether it's with a romantic relationship, friend relationship, or you just end up turning to drugs, alcohol, or something. And so that was my foundation of really wanting to have women step into that power of loving themselves first, to know their worth, to know that they are deserving, and to know that they are enough. And then, fast forward, been out of the military for 2018. So it's like, what, 6 years? Going on 7 years. Got out of the military, went to school as an accountant, went to the Ohio State University for 2 years. Then it got too much because I was pregnant, was working full time, taking care of the house because I was a single married fucking mom. And which that was my fucking, we'll talk about that. But, and so I'm like, all right, I need to do school. I'm either going to drop out of school, or I am going to be, I need to do like an online schooling. So transferred to Franklin University, and I ended up graduating with my associates and bachelor's there. Bachelor's there. And then I became an accountant for defense, which is ironic because military. And it's just been such an incredible experience. And then because of my assault, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, a whole bunch of things, PTSD. And when you apply for government job, I'm sure you know, because of the cop, they ask for an intense background. And with me being in the military, I'm like, they asked if we've ever been diagnosed with any of these things. I said yes. And then they go more in depth. And because of that, my security clearance was in question. And so this is really fucked up. But I was working there from May of 2021 to last December. So we're in 25. So December 2023. So not this past, but just for that. And they pretty much said that my judgment, my trustworthiness, and reliability may be impacted. And so I had to fight against that. There's a couple steps. The first step was me, I ended up handing in a lot of employee recommendations, they're vouching for me. I sent them all my awards. I showed them I've been working, the past year and a half, doing my job excellently, having outstanding on my performances. And they still came back and said, well, you still have anxiety. You still have, these certain things. So we're going to have to, essentially they have to, I was put on leave, essentially administrative leave. And then I had to go to a court hearing and present my case. I did not have an attorney because shit's expensive. Especially when it gets into that realm. They said, the person I was talking to about all of this, he said that as if they, specialize in national security, it may be worth it. However, it's not even if the judge says, hey, I believe that she's good to go back, then the 3 or 2 other people that are viewing the case could be don't think so. So fast forward, that was in April of last year. Finally got word that I could go back in August of 2024. So went back to there finally. But because I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth, but because of the pressure in unknowing of my job at DFAS, that's when I'm like, holy shit. I found Brian's page on Instagram, and I'm like, this is a fucking sign. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I was talking to my sister, and thank the Lord for her, because she is the one that said, I think you should do it. Billy said I shouldn't do it. I didn't have that support, and I was my sister's no, do it. Just what's there to lose? Fucking do it. And so I keep telling her all the time, thank you, because without her, I don't think I would have started. And so we started that. I started that, and then that's when in February I went to the mansion, and we hit it off. You showed me fucking so many things. He's a great coach, by the way. You are You're very
Thank you.
organized, and just you're welcome. Just the stuff that you do for your clients is amazing. Um, and so yeah, I would say that's a pretty good recap. My dad passed away July, and ever since that, my business kind of tanked from choice. Because like the mental capacity was like really, really hard. Him
Yeah.
passing, and then getting my job back at DFAS fiscal year end is fucking crazy. And so now that I'm like fresh slate with everything, like I'm like, we're fucking doing this, and this is my year.
Fuck yeah. Oh my gosh. So I know that right now the listeners are probably thinking, this is so much. A lot has happened to you. And I kind of want to dive into each portion a little bit, but I also want to ask you. First, I want to tell you that you're amazing. Like I feel like I'm a very good judge of character, and the world has always pulled me towards people that are good people, in my opinion. I've made bad choices in my life. Of course, I put myself around the wrong people. But I also feel the same way as like when I found Brian's program. Same thing, actually. Like everybody was telling me not to do it, and there was one friend that said, what's the worst that could happen? Like you're already unhappy with where you're at. You're literally about to go through a divorce. Your life's about to fall apart. Why not see if you could save it somehow? And I did it, and yeah, we met in February. Um, so that resonates with me. And I want to tell you, like, I don't know how you do it. I watch your videos. I watch your content. I love your stories, and I mean your Instagram stories, because I feel like I get a lot from your reels. But honestly, you're probably my number one person that I love to watch your Instagram stories, because I get to see what you do on a day to day, and I get to see how you do it. And I think there's so much value in that, because a lot of people, women, men, everybody, they don't know how to do it because they don't know. There's no answer. There's no blueprints. Like you said, when you were coming up and you went through a lot, the assault, the baby with a man who didn't want to be a part of your life or his life. Is it a boy or girl? The baby, first one,
Girl,
girl, her
Eliana.
life. Um, and then so much. Like you've had a busy life, and you could classify it as adversity. You could classify it as I've had a hard life and this is unfair, and your father just passed away and you had to fight the government for your job. How do you do it? Like how do you put yourself in the mindset of, even though things have happened to you and someone could easily say life is unfair and I'm a victim of my circumstances, how do you do it? How do you continue to create this life for yourself? And like, how do you have that mindset of knowing that this is your year and you continue to push through it? You're about to go through a divorce, it sounds like, right? So,
True.
which I understand because I've been there, right? And I have my own methods and tools, but the thing is, like, it's different, right? And you're the first female veteran that I have on podcast. And I know that a lot of female veterans listen to this podcast, and um I don't know what I don't know. There's things I can't speak on. And I think that's something that I appreciate about myself. But I hope that everyone listening right now, I hope that you send this to a female veteran, or just a woman that you know that needs to hear these kinds of words, this story. And I would just love to kind of hear about what your mindset is, or what tools you use to keep yourself in the right mindset. Like, how do you do it?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
So growing up, my mom always had like the everything happens for a reason mindset. So I think that really helped, but also
Mm.
it wasn't always like this. Um, Actually, postpartum with Nevaeh, I was writing in journals, letting my kids know that their mom loved them, because I had every intention to just go in front of a semi driver while driving.
Mm.
And I would like, sounds so weird, but I would fantasize about it, and I would feel so relieved just feeling that, and then like looking at my body. This, sorry, very gory, but like just looking at my
No,
body and like
go for
feeling
it.
at
You're good.
peace, it just it made me feel like I felt in that time, at that moment, I thought that that's would be better for my kids. Um, And then something happened to my bonus daughter, and which trickled down to my oldest. And that, I don't know, for some reason that clicked. Like, I even like called my counselor, I left her voice, and I'm like, all I see is red right now. Like, I don't know what the hell to do. And because of that single moment, I told myself, like, my kids need me. Because I've been through that, I see the signs. Because I've been through that, I make sure that I question and I talk with my kids. Um,
Yeah.
and then it got to the point where I just focusing on my mindset, and then going through that postpartum, looking back and being like, okay, I did that while I wanted to can not be here. Taking care of the house, taking care of all the kids. Like, I can do it. There's no doubt about it. Anybody else would have either gave up, turned to alcohol, turned to drugs, turned to something. And I didn't. So to me, like, it was like a lot of like self-reflection in a way of like, okay, I'm meant for something. I'm meant for something more. I'm here for a reason. Whether that's to help one single person, I don't know. Like, I just have I have a tendency to attract people that really want to either be elevated or to hurt people, because I always want to fix people. But it was like in that moment, I told myself, like, if I can do this, I can do fucking anything. And because of that, the resilience just kept building up and up and up. But most currently, I know earlier I said something about like loving yourself first. And it wasn't until I can't even tell you when, actually. Like, I can't give you a pinpoint date.
Sometimes it's hard to come up with like that pinpoint moment, because I also don't know what it is for me. Yeah, sometimes I wish I knew, but it's a process.
As a woman, and all the ladies listening, you mentally check out before you physically check out, because you want to make sure that you've done everything to try. You've done everything in your power to keep your life together, your family together, your kids happy. Is it me? Like, what am I going to do? Like, what can I do better? And that was me for the longest time. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And then it just got to the point where my daughter asked for us to stop arguing. Please stop arguing. Okay, that's enough right there. There was another time where, I'm not going to give you the details, but I was like crying, giving the kids a bath, and Billy, he was late, he left, and she just comes over and hugs me. He goes, "Mommy, it's okay. I can take care of you." And I'm like, "No, like, I appreciate you. I freaking love the shit out of you." But I told myself, like, I'm like, "You're a child. I take care of you. You don't take care of me." And just a few of those moments, I realized, like, even though there may not be physical abuse, even though there may not be, like, we are not degrading the kids, they are watching everything that we do. They're watching how a marriage should be. They're watching what to tolerate in a significant other. They're learning how to treat a woman. And because of that, I realized that this is not what I want. This past year, I've really been focusing on growth and just becoming an overall better version of myself, for my kids too. And because of that, I finally had the courage to be like, I don't want to try this anymore. I don't want to be married. Like, it's too far gone. Some hurtful things were said. I'll leave it at that. And it was hard, but I realized at that moment, that's when I knew, like, I actually love myself. I'm worthy, and it's hard now, but in the end, it's gonna be worth it. And when we told the girls, like, one of my biggest fears was Helene. She's my bonus daughter, and I love her dearly. I've been in her life for most of it, and I didn't want to not be able to see her. I didn't want to lose her, and that was one of my main things. But thankfully, like, me and her mom spoke before we told the kids, and we both agreed that it would be the best option for me to like stay in her life, and she's not gonna like keep me from her or anything. And then when, she was talking about it and crying, that was Helene's first concern, was if she's gonna see me. And so that was a little bit of reassurance. And they just kept asking why. And it's like, how can you tell them other than sometimes people just grow apart? Some people are better off friends than they are partners. But for the longest time, I was a single married mom doing it by myself. And I would make excuses. I can't do it by myself. No one's going to like me. And no one's going to want to be with me. I have 4 kids, 3 kids, my bonus daughter, but 4 kids. Who's going to want that extra baggage? I fucking love my kids. And I don't want to, that may have sounded like probably came off really bad, but I don't mean it as like they are an inconvenient. It's the fact that a lot of people
I get what you're saying.
That, yeah, and be like, and then not to mention, and I know this is like, I have to speak to my counselor about this, but the increase of assault goes up when you bring in an outside person, to, not that I'm going to be looking anytime soon, but, far future, I've always wanted a fucking family. And I think that's why I held on for so long, because ever since I was little, I'm like, I'm going to have 6 kids. Like, I want to grow. Like, I fucking love kids. I want this beautiful family. And when I want something, I do everything in my power to get it. And I think I was just that, like, that, what do you call it? Like that, like bell or whatever, just in front of you, like not looking at everything else, just being blinded by everything else.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And I was talking to my sister too. I'm sorry. I'm like,
you're good. This is great. Thank you.
No,
I appreciate you being so open. I know a lot of people are listening right now, and they're listening. So I appreciate you sharing with us. I appreciate you telling us your story.
Thank you. If you're a mom out there, or if you are, haven't been married, don't have kids, but are wanting to. So my sister yesterday, he said, I wish my mom would have told me that it matters who you have kids with and who you marry. Now, would I change it for a thing? No, because I love the shit out of my kids. I also know that everything happens for a reason. What this reason is, I don't know. But I know that over time, it'll come to light. And I do fully believe that every child is brought into this world most of the time for a great freaking reason. And, I'll always hang on to that. And it goes back to your question of how do I, stay afloat? A lot of tears when kids go to bed, I'm crying. But I also journal every single morning, get up before my kids, because I preach this to everybody. You need to fill your cup before you fill anybody else's, even your kids. Because if you do not fill your cup, then yes, you can find water from a rock when it comes to your kids. But it's in those moments that you end up like yelling or not being so patient with the kids. And then at the end of the day, you're like, oh my goodness, I failed as a mom, or I wish I was better. I wish I didn't yell so much, or you have that guilt. And so when you fill your cup up, you're more patient, you're more kind, you're more present with your kids. Because when you focus on you put time into you, whether that's your mindset and making sure you're eating good, you're working out, and having your body the best that it can perform, you're going to be the best mom, partner, employee, friend. Like, it goes so much deeper than just working out to look good. You're taking care of yourself, and that's not selfishness. That is self-care, and that is self-respect.
Oof. I remember feeling that idea of I'm supposed to get married, I'm supposed to have kids, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that. Like there's this mold or these rules that I have to follow, this standard. And I kept trying to force it. It happened twice. I've been married twice. The first one fell apart by my doing, and the second one, I thought it was what I wanted, but it was with the wrong person. And I think you're right. I think one of the under taught lessons is that the person that you choose as your partner is such a huge factor in the outcome of your life. And it's not talked about enough. And I remember thinking that, well, this is what I wanted. And I'm the one that filed for divorce. But I also know that I really believe this, that being an entrepreneur and a business owner helps you break free of that mold of like understanding, like you solve problems as a business owner, as a coach, like you get to think outside the box. You break the mold really, and then you realize like there's a different way to do things. And I think that's what helped me realize that my kids will have a better life if I actually can have a better life for myself. And I live life according to what I want and what's important to me and the things that I want. We have similar but different backgrounds. And I think that's the beauty of like connecting with people, is you get to see that everybody's going through it. You know, I see your daily videos where you're waking up and going for your walk. And we see that, but we don't see the late night tears. And I think that it's important to realize that there's both. There's the dedication of doing the thing that you said you were going to do no matter what, but it's a hard process and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I feel like you're an inspiration for a lot of people. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging what you're about to go through, but I really feel like not only are you up for it, but you're going to learn and you're going to grow so much from it that I'm actually excited for you. I feel like adversity is a gift. That's something that Brian tells us all the time, right?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what this next year is going to look like for you. Like, what changes are you making? What mindsets are you bringing into this year? I have a post here that you wrote recently, and I'm going to read it because it resonated with me. And it said, "What am I leaving in 2024? So I want to read this one because I feel like everybody needs to hear this. And it said that you're leaving toxic, negative ass people behind. And I think that that's pretty, that applies everywhere. It applies with everything in life. So can you talk to us a little bit about your mindset right now and as we are in this new year and kind of what you're working on to make sure that this is the best year ever for you, even if you are about to have a lot of challenges coming your way?" All right, let's stop for a minute. This is the part of the episode where I ask you to do me a favor. But it's not a favor for me. It's a favor for your fellow brothers and sisters that served with you. If you know someone that has been struggling, if you know someone that has been going through it right now, and you know that they want better for their life, they just don't know how to do it, please share this episode with them. It might just be exactly what they need. That's it. That's my only ask. If you want to subscribe, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Back to the episode.
Yeah, that's a great question. Lot to unpack there. So recently I actually was talking to Judith, and I actually reached out to the CLA first because Cole had a podcast. It was like, some of you, love the idea of being entrepreneurs, but you're really introverts and you'd rather like work with a coach. And I don't know, like for the longest time I was like always like thinking that, but I'm like, am I like giving up on myself? But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking like bite the bullet, close mouths, don't get fed. And so made a post about asking like becoming like a coach under someone's business. And well, Judith reached out to me like almost immediately. And now I am her assistant coach in her business. So it's no longer Love Yourself First Fitness. I'm a coach under hers, which is Judith Macias Fitness. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Sorry. JMF.
Macias.
Macias. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I grew up Hispanic.
That makes sense. But yeah, she's a freaking, I love her. Her values and my values, her goals, my goals really align. We mesh well.
Two freaking powerhouses. That's amazing. You guys are both awesome. Yeah, it's badass. I'm excited for you guys.
Me too. Because me and her were also talking, and I definitely feel like it's like a Brian and Cole type of thing, but on a
I see
different
it. I
level
see it.
in girls.
You guys were
Because she's
inseparable at the last event.
That's another thing too, because I met her at the mansion,
Yeah,
and
I remember.
it was just, and that's another thing, like why I feel everything happens for a reason. If I didn't go to the mansion, I wouldn't have met her. And then if I didn't go to the mansion, then I wouldn't have roomed with her in September. And so it was just, it's been amazing. And so that's the new thing. We aren't announcing it until February 5th to ever like publicly. So I'm super excited. As far as like my mindset, what I have changed with my morning routine is when I go on walks first thing in the morning, I listen to YouTube, and I'm a
Yeah,
very
you
like
sent
a
me a video
woman.
the other day.
Yes, like I
Loved
love
it.
it. Just it fills my day with gratitude. And then I need to get better at this, but um my gratitudes and affirmations. I have the app I Am, and so like I always receive something, every hour. And then with my, morning motivation, but taking in everything and be like, what am I grateful for? Because like the one day I was cleaning up and all I hear is William just like running around the house, laughing hysterically. And I'm just like, I took in the moment. I'm like, I'm so grateful for this. Like just to hear his laughter, all the kids happy and healthy, like that's what I want. Um, and I've also realized that ever since the separation, I'm so happy. I feel so relieved. And that
Yeah,
I don't mean to have that sound shitty. He
I don't think it does.
he's a good person, okay? He is. He has his demons. I cannot force somebody to be someone. Um, I cannot force someone to be better. I can't force someone to do things. Even if I see their potential. Um, but also I'm not attracted to laziness. And that was one of the really big things. Working full time, having the kids, my business. I work my dick off, okay? And
Yeah.
upkeeping a house on top of that, it's I don't want to unpack everything, but it's been
Why
a lot.
not?
And so
I'm here for
it's
it.
just I'm I'm starting to realize like I'm also frustrated with myself. Very frustrated because I allowed this to go on for so long. I had a counselor back last summer, and it seemed like she was very helpful, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I need to like just approach it differently, try approaching it, trying to do different things. And still it was just like that constant cycle of change for 2 days, 3 days, then go back. And I'm just like consistency, reliability,
Yeah.
especially when you have kids. Come on. It's one thing to like neglect yourself
Yeah.
when it comes to counseling and medication, but when it comes to your kids, like I don't fuck around with that. Mm-mm. Um, and it also started bringing out a different a person that I don't even know. I'm a very nice, kind person, lifting you up, and so when I get so mad to the point that I just like want to scream, to me that was another red flag. I'm like, hey, this isn't. I don't like this. I don't like who I am. Um, and so this year is just really making sure being in tune with myself. Self discovery is one of the things. I want to travel.
Yes.
Because on Brian's podcast, one of his podcasts, somebody was wondering about their why. Like, I don't understand, like, why. And he's like, well, why not work a 9 to 5? Well, because it's, lame or whatever. And he couldn't give a why. And then he said something about go on a trip. Okay, go on a trip. Because when you go on a trip just by yourself, you figure out pretty much what's important to it. You prioritize, like, you figure out you. And that's what I want to do this year. So that's like from the goal for me this year is just really reflecting on self, knowing me, because as you know in the military too, you're confined in this little freaking person. Like you can either do this or you can't, because if you do something else, then you could catch up, whatever else.
Yeah.
And so with the abusive household, going to the military, and then getting into this marriage, I've lost myself. And then when I try to come out and be myself, it was the accusations of you're just doing it for somebody else. And so it was just like, I just want to be me. Why can't I
Yeah.
just be me? And then it like shuts me down. And I'm just like, and another thing too, I'm so sorry, is my daughter Eliana, she is me to a fucking T. And I love, obviously, all my kids, but she reminds me so much of myself. She inspired me. She like has really made me realize like who I used to be, who I can still be. And for like, I can't really explain to her that now, but as she gets older, when she gets older, I can understand it better. I can't wait to be able to have that time because I just express how much she inspired me to be better and become myself again.
So much. I love it.
I know. I'm sorry.
No,
And
don't
I
don't
want to
be.
say too, like, this is not me, like, I'm good. Like, I'm not, please
I
don't
know.
feel sorry for me or anything, because if I had not gone through what I did, I would not be the person I am today. If I had not gone through what I did, I would have not learned and grown. Like you said, Brian's always talking about like the positive things. When there's a challenge, when there is a hurdle, look for the opportunity to learn. Because whatever you go through, you end up growing through.
Yeah.
And I've taken that and I've looked at, you know, everything I'm going through. I'm like, okay, it sucks fucking out. Yeah. I'm hurt. I'm crying. I feel relieved. But I know like I'm going to grow from this. Because if I gave birth naturally 3 fucking times, if I've been assaulted, if I've been woman in the military, a single mom in the military, I can fucking do everything. I can do anything. And so I guess that also like allows me to take my power back. And I didn't even realize that until I just said it. So thank you.
Fuck yeah. I
But
think
yeah,
it's one of the most powerful. I think it's one of the most powerful feelings that you can have when you look back and you realize that everything that you've gone through has created this person that you are right here in the moment, like right now. I think it's so fucking powerful when you look back and you don't feel sorry for yourself and you realize that like everything that happened was a choice, whether you know it or not. Like you put yourself in a position, and I'm not trying to victim blame here, but I ruffle feathers. We know this. But my point is that whether it was your fault or not, like it is your responsibility to change the outcome of it. And I think the more we sit in it and wallow in it, the harder it is to get out of it. So I think that it's so freaking cool that you look back and you're so proud of everything you've gone through. Brian told me the same thing. And honestly, I can tell you the moments that were like, shit, everything's burning down right now in my life in the past 3 years. I've purposely pushed negativity away from me over the past 2 years. I've lost a lot of friends. I've also gained a lot of amazing friends in my life. You're one of them. I've gone through points in my business where I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. TikTok is about to shut down. I just got shadow banned. We just hired an employee, and a week later he quit. I'm going through my divorce. I'm about to quit my job as a cop that I did this for 10 years. And like all of it, it's like, damn, I did that, you know? So I think what you mentioned of like looking back and realizing that like the adversity is the thing that creates this amazing person that you are. That's freaking amazing. And there's also so much power in connection and talking with people. You and I have had conversations throughout the year, and every time that we talk, like not only do I come out of it feeling better because I had a chance to connect with you and talk to you, but it's just like it just proves that good people that are trying and are genuinely pushing themselves out of their comfort zone consistently and continuously do excel. Like there's proof in that. And I love when people succeed, and I feel much more confident when I watch others that quit, because it makes me feel like this superpower, like I'm still growing. I'm not saying that I like when people quit, don't get me wrong. But my point is like doing the thing is hard, but doing it in spite of all the challenges and all the things that we're going through and the upcoming challenges and the divorce and the fact that we're dealing with all these opponents or enemies or just challenges. And you're almost like excited about it, right? Like you're like, bring it on. Because you've dealt with other shit before. You can still deal with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. And going off of what you said, you're like, you're not victim blaming. That's a hard pill to swallow. It really is, but it's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be upset about it. And coming from someone that was assaulted and have been through the shit, like, we got to really be real with ourselves and look at what were the red flags beforehand.
Okay. Yeah, let's
What
talk
were
about it.
the red flags? Like, you have to look back and be like, granted, sometimes like you could just be walking fucking home and something happened, right?
Yeah.
But on the rare occasions, especially when it comes to relationships, like you ignore the red flags. You knew
Yeah.
that, and I know that, like, I'm guilty of it. And so, but also, some people just like to be a fucking victim and being in that victim mindset because they like everyone feeling sorry for themselves. And psychology, I know, but I know it stems from childhood. And I know it stems from their parents. And that's like one of the fucking like, I'm scared. I'm so scared that my kids are going to be like, oh, because of you, I feel this, this, or this. Or maybe I just said one thing. And because of that one thing, like, they're holding on to it. Um, I was actually talking, there was a video going around on Facebook forever ago. And it was an old lady talking, saying how when she was 13, she put makeup on and her mom said that she looked like a clown, or she like laughed at her. And she said ever since that moment, she doesn't wear makeup, and that replays
Oof.
in her head. And I'm like, holy shit. And I turned to Eliana, I'm like, have I ever said anything to you to like make you feel bad or anything? Like, and she said no, but I'm like, please let me know if you do. However, what if there has been something that I said
Yeah.
to whether it's like any of the kids? And that's what I'm terrified of. And going from, like, me and my mom, like, we always like had an open communication. Like, I could talk to her about a lot of things. Me and her aren't close due to just differences and stuff. But like, that's one of the things that I really strive for, is to having that communication, that allowing my kids to feel comfortable and wanting to talk to me.
Yeah. I just did at the last event that we were at, do you remember Brian talking about the hypnotherapy?
Yes.
So I did a session with Grace, his hypnotherapist. I haven't talked about this publicly, so I'm going to share. So I did a session, and I'm super comfortable in my masculinity. I will cry if I have to. I don't care. So let's see what happens. But I did a session, and I'm very much like you, that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all in. So I used to be very skeptical about just life in general because of probably childhood trauma, because of, stuff that happened in the military. And I'm working through that, right? Like I'm also doing individual therapy. And therapy works if you want it to. Like, you have to go into it with really being honest. Otherwise, like, I really believe that everything will work, and it's only a gimmick if you don't treat it seriously. So I set up my appointment for the hypnotherapist. I chose a time where I knew that I would be in a good mental state. It wasn't just random. Like, I know when I work at my best. And the house was empty. And I did my session with her, and she had me lay down, and it was through Zoom, which fucking Zoom is amazing because of everything that happened with COVID. I feel like people take their fitness seriously, and I think people can understand that, like, doing stuff online and doing stuff through Zoom just can be just as effective. So that's great for our business, right? So I laid down, and she was talking to me, and she was asking me questions, and she asked me what was my goal of the session, and I really didn't know what it was. I didn't have like something that I was looking for. I knew I was looking for something. I wanted that breakthrough that, like, Brian talked about having. And she basically led me down this path of asking me questions and prompts. And I became very vulnerable, and I started to cry about my past. And we were able to get to a point where she helped me realize that I've never really loved myself, that it's always been, I'm doing stuff for someone else, or I'm doing stuff because I want people to see me in a certain light. I want to perform and make my parents proud, or I want to actually make friends in school, because I didn't have friends growing up. I had undiagnosed ADHD my entire fucking life until I was 24. And I think that, reflecting hindsight, I look back and I was always trying to belong. I always wanted to be funny, or hang out with gangbangers because the life was chaotic, or getting expelled from school, or dating this girl, and that became my identity, or joining the Marine Corps. And I never really loved who I was. And we went down this path, and she had me visualize a place of safety and peace. And at first it was weird. At first I went down a set of stairs in what appeared to be like a medieval castle, and I think that had something to do with security. And then I found myself in this like a library setting with a fireplace, and it was like a dungeon, but it felt very safe and warm. And then somehow it transformed into me being out in what I assume was like the rainforest, because that's what it felt like. And she asked me like, what would healing look for you? And I was crying, and I had my weighted blanket on me. And I said that I wanted to be able to like not start over, but I wish I could just go back and like love myself for my entire life. And before I know it, she had me prompted to the point where I actually saw myself as a 10-year-old boy. And she asked me like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to play with myself. I want to have fun. And me and myself, my 10-year-old self, we went up on the waterfall, and we jumped off the waterfall. And it felt so healing, Nicole. I remember feeling for the first time of like, I don't need anyone's approval. I love myself so much that there's room to love others. There's leftover love for other people. I had this concern for the longest of like, I need to do this and I need to do that because I have potential, but like the potential's there. The potential doesn't go away, but it's about, what is the intention? Why are you doing it? Where is it coming from? And I remember coming out of it, and I wrote on a Post-it note that a way that I can heal myself is to love my little self. And that was like a reminder. And I put it right by my stairs, because I pass by my stairs a lot. And that was a reminder to like be careful and think about the things that I say and the way that I am with my son and my daughter. Because I feel it. And I know that my son was born with he was born with a tethered cord, and that's something that is usually caught right away, and it wasn't. And he ended up finally having surgery when he was 2. He never crawled, and he couldn't walk until he was almost 2.5. And it was because of this tethered cord. And when he had the surgery, the neurosurgeon told us that there's going to be things that he may not be able to ever do, because it's a spinal thing, and therefore they just, there's so many unknowns with the brain and the spine that there's just things that may not develop normally. And they told us that he may never be able to walk right, and he may never be able to run, and he's fucking doing all of those things. So for the past like year, I've been operating from a place of like fear of like what he won't be able to do. And I've realized, I think talking to you right now, that I'm fucking excited for all the things that he will be able to do. And I want to keep showing him and raising him. And I think part of that comes back to the fact that like, when you love yourself, when you love yourself, it gives you space to be able to show up for people in a much better way. So I want to thank you for sharing what you shared, because it made me think about that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's always impossible until it becomes possible.
Yeah.
And him seeing you achieve everything you have, I'm sure has helped him become that resilient little man that he's going to continue to be.
Yeah.
Same thing with your daughter. They're lucky
No,
to
she's
have
going to
you.
be a handful.
Oh,
She's a
families
wild one.
are.
So I didn't have the experience of having a child that crawled everywhere and climbed on top of things, because my son physically couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she just gets on everything. I turned around the other day, I looked back, and she's on top of the sofa, on the counter, on the table. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So it's been
You
fun.
can turn away for 5 seconds, not even, and they'll get into something.
Yeah. I always love watching your stories, because it inspires me to let go a little bit of like, I want them to be adventurous. I want them to be brave. And I feel like what you said, because I remember there was definitely moments in my life, and I can pinpoint them. And I love my dad and my mom, but I remember my dad telling me I wanted to be a photographer, like a wildlife photographer. Like I wanted to go and do stuff for National Geographic. I don't know. I remember my dad telling me like, well, they don't really make any money. Like you have to take 1,000 pictures before you make any money. And because of that, I gave up on that. I'm like, oh, okay, I won't do that then. So like, I love my dad, and because of him being an entrepreneur, they own their own business and they're doing amazing. Because of him, like I definitely have learned a lot. But it also reminds me that I want to watch and I want to think about the things that I say, and I don't want them to feel like they can't, especially Oliver, both of them, right? But I never want my son to feel like he can't do something just because of, you know, what he's been through. So like, how do you do it? How do you let go of like? Because I see your stories, and I love the fact that like they're, you know, sliding down the snow hills and doing all this amazing stuff. How do you do it?
Um, like you just have a second kid. The second one is just like it just puts a tray on top. First kid is always like you want to bubble wrap them.
Yeah.
Your scenario is a little bit different. But I've also like I love reading and I love learning about the psychology, and I always like strive to be a better mom. And so knowing what I know now and knowing that the way kids build their confidence is by letting you do things and learning from that, really like it reminds me. Now, don't get me wrong, there are sometimes I'm just like, fucking stop, please. Like, no. But then it's just like, Helene is so good at this. She questions me. She goes, why? And I'm just like,
The why?
okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if your parents are like this, but my parents are always like, because I said so.
Yep.
But to me, I'm like, you have a valid point. Why? Why can't you go do this? You're not hurting anybody. You're not hurting yourself. You're right. Okay, let's do it. And so it also like the adventure things, like every child is freaking different. Nevaeh was crawling at 5 months. Like she was just on the go, like always like that. And I think she just really helped me build that. My anxiety was already like, what's it called? Like when it came to be William and him jumping off things, like it was just like, it's normal.
Yeah.
But also when I was little, like I was the one, I played football when I was on the football team, in 7th grade. I was the one, you know, jumping from trees, jumping down, like I was the adventurous one. And I just, thinking back to it now, like that's what built my confidence. And again, I think it also goes back to, it's because I was able to be in control of something. You know, I could see my parents fight. I could hear them fight. I can't fucking control that. I can't control on if they take something away from me, but hey, if they're not around and I'm going to choose this, let's see. I'm going to build my confidence some way. And so that's just my personal thought process. Not sure, you know, that's
Do you think that's something
really
that
the
helped you
case.
into adulthood? The fact that you've always been willing to find and create your own confidence. I mean, obviously you went through a lot, right? But do you feel like having that initial baseline helped you come out of those moments of like, I'm gonna find a way to create confidence from this?
Really? I'm going to contradict myself right here.
Go
Okay.
for it.
Because my dad always said he was more so the type of person that, um, if you do something good, you get rewarded. If you do something bad or you don't do something, you're disciplined. And so I was always looking for like striving the best because when I, you know, if I do something good, I'm gonna get rewarded. And so having that like external validation, but also growing up, I didn't know what love was. I didn't know how a man should love a woman. Granted, I know like there's been times my parents, you know, got along, whatever, but I see the bad more than the good. I remember the bad more than the good. And so I don't even know how to answer that, I guess.
That's all right.
No, I think just doing it and just reassuring myself a lot. Like, I did this before, I did this one thing, so maybe because I did this, I can do this.
Yeah. I've started
Question.
to,
I need to reflect on that.
well, I asked because I've started to, I feel like the number one thing that anyone can work towards is self-awareness. I think that when you step out of the matrix and you stop believing that life is a certain way and it can be whatever you want it to be, I think that paying attention and having a very quick feedback loop. For example, there's the delayed gratification of like going to the gym. Like you're not going to see results in the first week. You might feel great, and that's the point actually. But like there's a delayed gratification of like it takes time to build. It takes time to create the business, to get what you want to do, to get the certifications, to get a degree. Um, it takes time, but I also think that there's a short way of having instant gratification of like having a quick feedback loop of like this morning I woke up and I jumped in my ice barrel, and because of that I had energy and I had serotonin, and because of that I was able to get in my car and go to the gym, and I had a great workout, and my mind, I was mentally clear, and because of that I spent 20 minutes in the steam room, and because of that I feel refreshed, and because of that I know that this is going to be a great episode, and because it's a great episode I know I'm going to have a great day, and because I don't eat fast food at lunch I'm not going to feel lazy and lethargic afterwards. So like I like having those like short little quick wins and like paying attention to the things that work, because on the flip side of that I could easily tell you that if I go out tonight and I have 3 or 4 drinks, tomorrow's going to be shit in the morning. And I have that quick feedback loop of like doing this results in this, but doing this results in this. And I think that is so fucking important that we don't pay attention to that, because we want to just like keep moving and we want to just not feel either shame or guilt, but also we ignore the pride. We ignore the fact that like I fucking did something hard today that a lot of America, a lot of people can't do. And I don't know. I just think that having that self-awareness and having that quick feedback loop of like you do the thing and because of this, something positive does happen right away, puts you in the mindset of like creating that constant confidence, you know? That's why I asked.
I love that. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this because you're dropping a lot of like bombs. I need to like wish I had my notebook with me. But
It'll
thank
be
you for this.
recorded.
This
It's
has been
recorded and it'll
amazing.
be posted. It's good.
Um, what about you though? Like with you going through that, how are you if you're comfortable sharing? How are
Fuck
you
yeah.
doing?
I love
How are
sharing.
you? Perfect.
What's the question? I'll
So
be the interviewee.
how are you doing? How are you handling things?
Hmm.
I know like last week you said something about like the daycare. What were your thoughts? How did you get through that?
I've I've stopped catastrophizing everything, and I did a coaching call with my clients about this, and I tell my clients that like 85% of the things that I tell you guys about, it's a message for me. It's because I need the reminder. It's because I am battling with this. Like me and Sam, you met Sam. Um, Shout out to Sam. He's fucking a badass. He runs the company for the most part. I'm just the face of it. He's my Cole. He's gonna love hearing that. Um, we just we just we planned out all of the February coaching calls, and the topics are always like we ask for feedback from the clients, but it's always about like January was heavy on calendar and habits because it's a hard month and I want people to set the tone for the year. I love Mondays. I love setting the tone for the week. So I think of January as the same for the year. Like if you have a shitty fucking January, if you have resolutions or if you have a vision board and right off the bat, January, things fall apart on you, it's going to be hard to pick it back up in February or March because you have this mindset of, well, it just didn't work for me. I'll wait till next year, whatever. And I feel the same way about Mondays. So to come back to the question, we came up with all these coaching calls for February, and a lot of it is about nutrition. A lot of it is about leveling up and taking things to that next level, basically. But I did a coaching call about stop catastrophizing everything. So on Friday, I get a call 10:30 a.m. and it's the daycare saying that they had a pipe burst. Kids are okay. They didn't get wet. They weren't in the room, but that they were gonna have to shut down the daycare. And I went to pick up my kids and I asked them, like, what does this look like? She's like, well, we should be back open on Monday, but we're not 100% sure. And Monday comes around, and I haven't heard back. They said that they're open on a message, and they send us a message saying that my daughter's room is indefinitely closed. So this means that we're going to have to find another daycare. This means that I have to keep her with me that day. This means that I can't just take my son. I took my son that day. I went to talk to them, but it was like, yeah, that room is closed. We don't have space for her. And I knew that there was going to be a solution that would present itself. I didn't catastrophize it. I didn't just stop my day and go into emergency mode. I know that I'm resourceful. I know that going about my day isn't ignoring the problem. It's thinking through it. And I still did everything I could for the day. I still got stuff done. My daughter was with me, and I used her nap time to get stuff done. And by the end of the day, we had 3 other daycares that we were looking at, because co-parenting is important, and it's about the children. It's not about us. And Tuesday morning rolled around, and they sent us a message, and they said that they were able to open up a different room for the kids, and everything worked itself out. And I could have easily started to call my mom and started to be like, hey, can you watch her? Or I could have started calling daycares. But it doesn't help to catastrophize. Things will be okay. It's never the end of the world. And if you have to adjust, if you have to change plans, if you have to cancel events, if you have to ask people to reschedule, guess what? It's okay. It's okay. Nothing is ever as bad as it seems, in my opinion. And of course, there's fucking terrible shit in this world. But the point is that you can work through it by still doing the things that help you work through it. And I'll share this too. 2 Mondays ago, I had a really hard day. It was a dark day. And I hate that, because Mondays are my favorite day. But I took myself off of my Adderall by choice, because I just quit my job. So now I don't have health insurance. So therefore I can't go to the same pharmacy. So therefore now I have to go through the VA. And I'm doing it. It's going to be all right. But I took myself off of Adderall by choice. And I still have some, because I didn't want to I tapered off, basically. And I can't tell you what the middle of December looked like. It was a blur. But then it hit me again 2 Mondays ago, and it was a dark day, and I had to do a lot of rest and recovery. I still showed up for my clients, and we did a coaching call on Monday. But I was honest. I'm like, I'm not in the best place, but this is about showing up. This is about, I'm still here, I'm still present, and I'm going to try and deliver the best that I can, because I think that there's power in having that quick feedback loop of like, yeah, I could take the day off. I could make up a reason. I could lie. I could do all these fucking things, but like, that's not who I am. So like the fact that I was honest, and the fact that I was able to be honest with myself and with them, I rested, I recovered, I did all the things that make me feel better. I jumped in my ice barrel, went to the gym, ate the right foods, I got sleep. Tuesday rolled around, and I was back at it. I felt better, because I gave myself grace, but I also leaned into the things that helped me. And people fucking do the wrong thing. People fucking go drinking, or they fucking wallow in their pity. And that angers me, because it's like, if you're already in a shitty place, why would you do the things that are going to make you feel shittier? You know, that's my rant and spiel, I guess.
No, I definitely see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I guess I could be on the opposite side,
Go
because
for it.
once we are in that space, especially if you struggle with drinking in general, or like some type of drugs, sex addiction, food addiction, like those are all real prevalent things too. It's at the end of the day, they don't really see the point. So why the fuck not? But I see your point of, why would you, to make it worse? But I think you have worked so much on yourself,
Yeah.
and you have worked on your mindset, that you're able to have that self-awareness, which is fucking huge, to be where you're at. A lot of people don't. And I think that's where, like, you and I, like, we are, I don't mean to say this in like a really like a not to people, but the people that have the self-aware, they're further ahead than others because we know what is going to make us feel good and
Yeah.
not. We know how we're going to feel if, certain situations happen or we put ourselves in certain situations. So I definitely think like self-awareness is huge. And also like, at the mansion, Cole's like, be the light. It is aggravating as shit when you're like it, if I were in your position, this is what I would do. So easy, but in my opinion, there's a point where you're like, okay, I've been in your position. Okay. I can tell you everything until I'm blue in the face, but until you're ready and until you're self-aware, it's just not going to change.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep showing up like you did and showing you that it is possible.
You're right, though.
I think you being vulnerable with them was huge, and that's awesome.
You're right. Because I've been on the other side of that. Like 4 years ago, 6 years ago, when I went through my first divorce, all I did was date and drink. And it went further and further into the darkness because I didn't have self-awareness, but you're absolutely right. I remember being there. And I think because I have that benchmark, that awareness of like, if this is what I do, this is the result that will happen. It is a mindset shift. So you're absolutely right. I think that going through all those things helped me realize that I know what it's like to be there, and therefore I never want to be there again. So if I don't take steps in that direction, I can't end up in that place.
You're also right too with the whole like I feel like it's just like a gray area because if it's the same thing and they're doing the same thing over and over again and they just continue to be in that like victim loop, victim mindset, then that's where it's just like you're just making your own bet.
Yeah. This has been a good conversation.
It has. It's helped me a lot. I have a lot of self-reflection to do, so thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for being on. I appreciate you. I would love to have you back on. This is your first podcast episode, right?
Yes. And you know what's fucking insane? I put this shit on my calendar because Sarah Reimer, she was on a podcast and I've been looking like podcasts near Columbus or podcasts in Ohio. There's fucking nothing. So one, that tells me like, oh, okay, I can, be that. But also it's just like, how can I just want to get out there. And the fact that like you have it and you're a veteran and I'm just like, one, and I'm just so thankful for you.
It's a no-brainer. You made this happen, and honestly, I was super excited when you reached out, and I knew that it was a yes for me, and I'm sure a lot of people have received a lot of value from today from listening. So, two more things. I want to definitely let people know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you, but I also want to ask you if there's one final message or one last thing that you want to share with everyone, what would it be?
Love yourself first. That will always stick with me. And I mean, that could be a whole different conversation, but yeah, just love yourself first.
Tell us about it. Why do you have to love yourself first?
Because if you can't love yourself first, you don't know if you don't love yourself, then you don't feel you're worthy enough to be loved. So if you don't love yourself enough to know like how worthy you feel, then you're going to let people treat you whatever way you want. You're going to let things happen to you and then just be like, oh, well, and you're going to justify it and be like, it's because of blah, blah, blah. When in actuality, like once you start loving yourself, the entire game changes. The entire fucking game changes. And you won't put up with the bullshit. You'll put yourself first and you'll know that taking care of yourself first, loving yourself first is what's going to get you to that next level and keep you in tune and tap into your actual potential.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Nicole. Well, it's been a pleasure. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you?
Instagram and Facebook. I'm very rarely on TikTok, but I do have a TikTok, Coach Nicole Wright.
COACH, Nicole Wright, WRIGHT. I'm looking at your IG right now.
Yeah.
IGHT. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And for anybody listening, do me a favor, go and follow Nicole and drop a rating or a review on the podcast. And if you want to have her back on, definitely let me know in the comment section. This has been amazing. I appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have the best day ever.
You too.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Vet Rise podcast. If today's episode inspired you, made you think, or simply gave you hope, I have a small favor to ask. Share it with just one veteran or someone you think could benefit from my message. Your share could light a spark for them. You don't know who you might save. For more insights and to join our mission, follow my socials at JP the Veteran Coach and explore how we can rise together. Thank you for joining us, for being part of this journey, and for believing in the power of rising together. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep rising, and never forget that we are stronger together. My name is Juan Perez, and thank you for your time.